Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Reverend Dr. Aija Duelm, and I am the Minister of Community, Unitarian Universalist Church. I welcome you all here. I'm glad you are here on this day, whether in person or watching us virtually on our streaming services. Our mission here is to nourish spirits, work for justice, and transform lives. Let's say it together. Nourishing spirits, working for justice, and transforming lives. This is what we come here and strive to accomplish together. Wherever you are on your journey, whether you're here for the first time or been here for longer than you can even remember, I'm glad you are here. Let us begin this worship with call to worship words that were written by Lindsay Bates. Let us open our minds to the challenge of reason. Open our hearts to the healing of love. Open our lives to the calling of conscience. Open our souls to the comfort of joy. Astonished by the miracle of life, grateful for the gift of fellowship, confident in the power of living faith, we are gathered here. Come, let us worship together. This Sunday marks the second Sunday of Advent, and we will light our second candle today. The words that I'm using were written by Megan Weiser, and she says these things. In the Christian tradition, Advent is the beginning of the church year, and it recognizes the transforming power of God in the world. During this season, they're looking forward to the birth of Jesus and celebrating the spiritual light. And Christianity is not the only tradition to celebrate light at this time of the year. Hanukkah, solstice, and Kwanzaa all involve candles, fire, and lights as part of their celebrations. So each week until Christmas, we light a new candle. We have a circle of greenery, and it was Sarah who made this for us this year, Sarah Riley. And this greenery reminds us of an eternal cycle of all life, where there's no beginning and no end. The candles remind us that there's something happening right now when we light one, and then we light the second one, and then we know there will be still more to come, more candles to light. The light of these candles, the flame of these candles, remind us that we are each called to emit our glow amid the pain and suffering that is facing our world today. The light of Advent grows brighter and brighter, guiding us toward personal peace and shared joy and more love. So this morning we will light the second candle. I will start with our first candle since we lit it last week. And do you remember what we were lighting that for? The first one? Hope. Yes. We lit that one for hope. And the second one we light as a symbol of our all longing for peace. We bring our hope into the world when we practice peacemaking. Our caring community aspires to be a source of freedom from violence and exclusion. May we become the ones we have been waiting for. May we together strive to create a lasting peace. So imagine a doctor's waiting room. Dr. Bloom, who was known for miraculous cures for arthritis, had a waiting room full of people. And then one little old lady, completely bent over in half, shuffled in slowly, leaning on her cane. When her turn came, she went into the doctor's office, and when she emerged half an hour later, she was walking completely straight up with her head held high. A woman sitting in the waiting room who had seen all this walked up to the old lady and said, "It's a miracle! You walked in, bent in half, and now you're walking straight up. What did that doctor do?" And the woman answered, "A miracle, schmiracle. He gave me a longer cane." This story was written by Pastor Tim, and this might be just an example of how Unitarian Universalists sometimes look at the miracles. We're rational people, and for many of us, we're having a hard time with that concept itself. We value reason, and we believe that everything has an explanation. There is the story of Thomas Jefferson, who, although was not a Unitarian, but he used a razor blade to cut out from his Jefferson Bible all the references to the miracles that were in the gospel that were supposedly performed by Jesus. Casting out demons, feeding thousands, healing the lepers, giving sight to the blind, raising the dead. I don't wonder what was left, but okay. Some of you might really appreciate this Jefferson story because the supernatural thing is the thing of the past, and we know better today. It's not that surprising that UUs have some challenges with miracles if we look at our history and the ways our faith was shaped and formed. Reverend Scotty McLennan did some research, and he looked at UU Library and found that there are not that many references to miracles. What he discovered was that there are exactly 3 references, 3 Unitarians who mention miracles at all. And these are Andrews Norton, William Henry Furness, and Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I think you can guess where this is going. In the early 19th century, there was a very heated debate, theological debate, among Unitarians at the time and Transcendentalists. Miracles were a part of that debate. For background, Protestant reformers argued that while miracles as divine interventions had indeed occurred in the biblical times, they have ceased to occur. So this was known as a cessationist view, for those who need a fancy word. Andrew Norton argued that miracles that did occur provided empirical evidence, the proof that made the faith valid, to say that this is truly faith in God. But he also said that miracle stories in the biblical times provided that credibility and authority to the claims that they made about God's power and presence in the world. And Furness and Emerson, they were on the other side of that debate. They argued that religious faith did not require any confirmation by supernatural events and experiences, but that the truth of religion must be founded on reason and human experience, not miracles. For transcendentalists, the idea that God ceased to be active in today's life was not acceptable. They claimed that God is still present and we can experience God's presence in our lives. They rejected the supernatural part of the miracles, but offered a different way of understanding this concept. In the famous Divinity School address, Ralph Waldo Emerson explained that Jesus spoke of miracles for he felt that man's life, a person's life, was a miracle. And everything that man does is a miracle. Everything that a person does is a miracle. When I worked as a chaplain in the hospital, I often met people who believed in the power of God to intervene in supernatural ways. I met them at the dying person's bedside, and the family would ask me to pray for a miracle. Sometimes I was asked to pray for a miracle even after the person had died, because the God they believed in did raise from the dead. This was not the time for me to engage in the debate as transcendentalists did. But as you can imagine, these situations prompted me to rethink my own belief in and understanding of miracles. A UU minister, Barbara Rhodes, says, "A miracle is an event that fills us with wonder." She had an unusual experience at a supermarket. A congregational minister had stopped her after she had unexpectedly recovered from a serious illness. He asked her, "How does a Unitarian deal with a miracle?" No wonder Rhodes began to think and ask questions. In her reflection, she writes, "Not all bodies will heal themselves, but on those occasions when everything within the wider body is working together, the tremendous skill and caring of the doctors and nurses, the encouragement and love and strength-giving acts of family and friends, the amazing healing powers of the human body itself, and the patient but passionate life-loving spirit within oneself, then the definition of a miracle may apply." So for Rhodes, miracle is an event that fills us with wonder. And to the question, what does a UU do with a miracle, Rhodes says, she does what all humans do in the presence of wonder. She gives thanks. The word miracle points to the object or sense of wonder, amazement, awe. It might be something unexplainable, something beyond our understanding, or it might have scientific explanation so amazing that it infuses us with wonder and awe. And to me, a miracle is when a person finds hope in a dire situation, when a family finds ways to gain strength and have a life after a loss of a child, when a person, family, or community experiences meaningful change of transformation that brings hope, laughter, and healing. That is a miracle. The Advent season is about waiting for the hope, deliverance, peace to come and lighten up our life, to change our circumstances for the better or change our hearts toward love and compassion. Very soon we will be hearing again stories about misery of Ebenezer Scrooge and the amazing transformation that will happen to him on Christmas morning. We will hear about Grinch or Watch It's a Wonderful Life or other movies about the miracles of human goodness, community, redemption, the miracles of human laughter and joy, miracles of love, light, hope, and peace in the face of hatred and despair. All of these aimed to make us believe that goodness is possible when life doesn't seem to be giving any sign of that just yet. As we heard in the reading, one of the greatest miracles in the Jewish tradition is the parting of the sea. Yes, we know today that there is no historical evidence for the actuality of this story. There may have been some people who went through Exodus experience, but scholars are for the most part convinced that all the stories from the Exodus in conquest tales part as well, they're just tales and stories written to validate religious beliefs. The way the story of the parting of the sea is written, it suggests that it was a liturgical drama to be reenacted over and over again in considering the oppression, liberation, wilderness, and receiving the promise as the underlying themes of this story. The story tells us about the Israel people who had suffered under the Egyptian rulers. The oppression was so great that they cried out to God, and God heard them. God promised to bring them to a land with honey and milk, a land of life. And so God did. God brought them out of Egypt, and this event of parting the sea was part of this deliverance, so they could escape the Egyptian army that was coming after them. Then the Israel people spent some time in the wilderness, and 40 years later, they entered the promised land. The Exodus story was written to provide ground for hope in the circumstances that presented none. And yet it is a rather miraculous story. John Burns emphasizes that the story is so powerful that it has influenced not only the faith of Jewish people, but also political and social movements from the Puritans to the founding fathers of America, through Marxism to every contemporary liberation movement. You and I know what it is like to be delivered from awful experiences. So we may not be surprised about all the singing that is going on in the story. And yet, as the Midrash tells us, it is possible to not notice a miracle. Maybe we too sometimes are overwhelmed by ongoing economic uncertainty in our lives, or political frustrations, or environmental challenges, or even violence in our own homes, that we do not focus on everyday miracles. The miracles of change and transformation often do not happen instantaneously in one moment, but they come slowly. They take time and they take work. But does that mean they're less miraculous? I think it only means that they're harder to notice. Community is a place where miracles can and do happen, where people are not afraid to hope, to seek and ask for what they need, and where, in spite of the evidence to the contrary, love abides. The unexpected blessing, the fulfillment of long-awaited dream, the release from suffering, the courageous journey of recovery, the travel through loss and grief Kathy Brestrup says, sometimes the miracle is life restored. These sometimes leave us speechless, and we stand in awe in the presence of these wonder-filled experiences, and we give thanks. So what does a miracle look like in your life? I will offer you a few questions as we end today. What would a miracle look like if it were to happen in your life? Imagine if you wake up tomorrow morning and the problem that has been weighing heavy on your shoulders is gone, not there anymore. What would that look like? What would that be? What do you, as a Unitarian Universalist, do with a miracle?